Hello and welcome to World Talks, where every word matters. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. Good evening. By imposing 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from the European Union, Donald Trump couldn't be more blunt in putting America's interests first. Now, the Polish Minister of Foreign Affairs, in an essay for the Polish media outlet Wirtualna Polska, wrote that there are many things that the Americans don't understand about the European Union. Tom Rose, the next ambassador to Poland, was quick to respond. And now, to help better understand each other, at least on the global economic ground, we are joined in the studio by Professor Grzegorz Kołodko, former Polish finance minister. Good evening, Professor, and thank you for being with us in this evening hour. So let me first start by Tom Rose, who writes back to Radosław Sikorski and explains. Quote, America has no VAT tax, which imposes a tremendous systematic disadvantage for US exporters. The EU exporters get the VAT refunded when they export. We have no such case. So Mr. Ambassador tends to forget, I imagine, that every good sold in the EU, whether local or imported, is subject to VAT, right?
The United States is quite different from the European Union. We refer to us as the Union, but actually there is the Union in the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. The European Union is still an integration grouping of countries with a specific regulation, as if you touch the issue of taxation, indirect taxation, like value-added tax, it does not exist either in the US or in Canada. They have something different, what is called over there general sales tax. But the mechanism of VAT and GST is different. And of course it has the economic consequences. But if Polish Foreign Affairs Minister says that the Americans don't understand us, Europe, well, to the extent it's correct. But the problem is that in the United States there is very many people, but the political system is also very much different from what we do have in Europe. There is the president with a powerful executive strength, and nobody like that important politician does exist in the European Union or in any European country. And for that reason, the question is, what does Mr. Trump understands and what does he not understand? And the problem is that I'm afraid that Mr. Trump's knowledge approach to economics and politics is really based on a complete wrong set of assumptions. We may refer to it as a Trumponomics, and Trumponomics is based on a kind of irrationality. Economics is about being rational and making the things most efficient in the possible way. And Mr. Trump does believe, it is not in knowledge, this is a kind of quasi-religion conviction that according to his interpretation of the economic rules, he can make America great again, but he means to make America great again at the cost of somebody else. And now we see that somebody else is actually everybody. Also the friends, the alliance like Mexico or Canada, from United States, Mexico, Canada Free Trade Agreement, or the European Union countries, or far away, Japan and South Korea. So the situation will become very messy before we'll have an interpretation of the complexity, what is going on. A little bit of optimism, very tiny, is that there are still some competent people, knowledgeable, within the ruling circle of the United States, which may somehow influence this policy of Mr. Trump. But for the time being, as I'm following what is being done by Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasury, that is the finance minister, they are very loyal to Mr. Trump, and for that reason, the situation will become much worse before they will start to improve. And of course, we have plenty of problems here within European Union.
Exactly. If I may, if you allow me, I would like to play the devil's advocate just for a minute, because if I hear J.D. Vance, who says in Paris, deregulate, otherwise your regulations will kill your artificial intelligence. Indeed, Europe has to deregulate. And when Mr. Ambassador writes and points to stricter standards than in the US, testing, labeling, all those measures which are imposed by European Union, perhaps it's a right way to follow deregulation and abandoning the administrative layers imposed on different production of different goods. So maybe this is a way, this is a path. Maybe we can somehow take advantage of this hint.
We still teach our students at Yale or Kosminski University, I did teach here and there, that we're supposed to act in a reasonable way in a free economy. But free economy is a textbook concept. Free economy does not exist. You can make a computer model of a free economy. In reality, what I do know also from my practice being 4 times Deputy Prime Minister for Economic Affairs in Poland, that economy must be regulated. It must be based on the private entrepreneurship. And here Mr. Trump is as much as Polish Prime Minister, who declared also a drive towards deregulation yesterday at, not without reason, Warsaw Stock Exchange. So I'm here with both Donalds, with Donald Trump and Donald Tusk. We do have to deregulate the economy, or I would rather say we have to re-regulate the economy. On one hand, there's plenty regulations, laws, principles which are making free entrepreneurship a little bit more difficult or limited. But on the other hand, there are the certain spheres where there is not enough regulation to protect the consumer, to protect the free competition, to protect the natural environment. And in these spheres, we do need more regulation. So the question is not just to deregulate but to improve the set of regulation, to make space for honest competition between private entities, but also to protect the weaker part of the economic game, that is the consumers, that is the environment, and so on. So I'm very much afraid that what they will do in the United States will be kind of throwing the baby together with the bath, because when Mr. Trump says, following what has been said by Mr. Musk, that do check the Defense Department, there is, so he said, billions of dollars of corruption and wasteful money spending, I'm a little bit afraid. I'm not in favor of spending billions by the Defense Department. I would prefer to invest the money in R&D or in environment or social protection of the weaker part of the society.
That would be for peacetime.
But I do not doubt that there is a great deal of wasting the money, throwing the good after the bad money, and that is what they have to do in the United States, in the European Union, in Poland. I'm only afraid that is my experience, that whenever the politicians are starting to improve the regulation, they make it even worse. It's really supposed to be done in a very reasonable way, but this is not an academic exercise. It is not an intellectual game. This is the game of conflict of interest, and after deregulation, one may have even worse regulation than before. And from this reason, the situation is much more challenging within the European Union, because the contradictions within the European Union between the different states is much bigger than within the United States between the states. That is the big problem.
Professor, let me understand, because we certainly are all trying to grasp the essence of this conflict. This is not the first time that Donald Trump imposes tariffs on the EU. He did so before in 2018. At that time, there were countermeasures?
Donald Trump says, make America great again. That is what he means. that the US is supposed to be the strongest forever. He says America first, it implies everybody else second, third, or the last one. Donald Trump doesn't care of starving people in Africa, and he doesn't care about business people in the European Union, or you can pick up whatever. I'm talking about the alliance, Australia, Japan, or South Korea. Definitely, he doesn't like China, because China is the only unit which can compete with the US, and with very many respects is already stronger than the US. But the European Union is the European Union. For Mr. Trump, for American 47th president, this is not any kind of friend or partner. This is a threat to his making America great again.
America great again, but the prices will rise in America as well. They will backfire on American consumers.
You have to understand that there is this strategic difference, that is my reading, between China and the United States and the attitude to the European Union. In China's interest is prosperous, fast-growing, economically strong and integrated European Union. Yes, it is in the interest of China, because for China, European market is very important. Yes. From not United States, from Mr. Trump perspective, prosperous European Union is just a competitor to making America great again. China is not working in a way, in the global economic game, in a way to enrich China at the cost of the others. Mr. Trump is happy to do so. He is simply disregarding the problems we may have when he is imposing tariffs or other protection measures which are harming our industries, our people, etc. The other problem is that he is naive, because he believes that it will be good for US. Sometimes it can be good for US in the short run. For instance, if there are tariffs on import of steel or aluminum or whatever, then there will be a little bit more encouragement to develop this production in the United States, but it also will fuel inflation. And pretty soon, American people, about here so often, so much they have to hear from White House, they will feel that this is a little bit more expensive, this is a little bit more expensive, and so on. If you go to Trump 1.0, 2017, 2021, at that time, he also imposed very protective tariffs. And for instance, the production of steel and aluminum didn't raise an iota. So the positive effects in the longer run, which Trumponomics presumes, are not going to happen. You will see, you will recall my words, quarter after quarter, during the second term of Mr. Trump, the public support for his presidency within the United States will be shrinking, but he will cause very many problems in our European Union and in some other parts of the world. And it is not only about economics, because on the political side, he is even more harmful than on the economic side.
Thank you very much, Professor Kołodko. Unfortunately, time is running up quickly, so we will be watching the situation as it unfolds.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for being with us tonight. And thank you for watching this edition of World Talks. And please stay tuned to TVP World for more.